Hello my passionate learners, I hope you all are doing great and welcome back to another exciting video with Sapphire Academy. In English grammar, verbs play a vital role in forming meaningful sentences. However, not all verbs function in the same way. Some verbs are essential for completing a sentence while others only add extra information. Among these, finite verbs hold a central position because no sentence can be grammatically complete with them. Today's topic, finite verb, focuses on understanding what a finite verb is, how it functions, and why it is important in sentence construction. A finite verb is a verb that agrees with its subject and expresses tense, present, past, or future. The term finite means limited. A finite verb is called so because its form is limited by the number, the subject, and the tense of a sentence. A finite verb has the following key characteristics. First one, agreement with subject. A finite verb changes its form according to the subject of the sentence. For example, I play football. Next one, she plays football. Here, the verb changes because the subject changes, which confirms that the verb is finite. And the second one is expression of tense. Finite verbs clearly indicate the time of action. Let's understand this with some examples. He writes neatly, that is present tense. He wrote neatly, the past tense, and he will write neatly, that is future tense. The verb shows time, which is defining features of finite verbs. The third one is completion of meanings. A sentence becomes complete only when it contains a finite verb. For example, if we say running on the road, it is incomplete. The right version of the sentence is the boy is running on the road. The sentence becomes meaningful only after adding the finite verb. Let's have a look at some examples of finite verb in sentences. She teaches English. Next one is they were late for school. One more, I'm reading a book. In each sentence, the highlighted verb agrees with the subject and shows tense, making it a finite verb. To conclude, a finite verb is essential because they make sentences grammatically complete and connect the subject with the action. Non-finite verbs, which play an important role in sentence formation and meaning. Before we move ahead, it's important to understand that not all verbs behave the same way. Some verbs can stand independently, while others need support. These supporting verbs are known as non-finite verbs. Today, we will understand what non-finite verbs are, their types, and how they function in a sentence. To begin with, the term non-finite literally means not limited. A non-finite verb is a verb that is not restricted by tense or subject. In other words, it does not change its form according to time or number. Because of this reason, a non-finite verb cannot act as the main verb of a sentence. At this point, a natural question arises. Why is it called non-finite verb? It is called non-finite verb because it is free from the boundaries of tense and subject agreement. Unlike finite verbs, it does not tell us when the action takes place. Instead, it supports the main verb by adding meaning to the sentence. Now that the basic idea is clear, let us move on to the types of non-finite verbs. Broadly speaking, non-finite verbs are classified into three main categories: infinitives, gerunds, and participles. Each type performs a different function in a sentence. First of all, let us discuss the infinitives, which is the most commonly used non-finite verb. An infinitive is usually formed by adding or placing to before the base form of the verb. In most cases, an infinitive is used to express purpose, intention, or desire. It answers the question why or for what purpose. For example, she wants to become a doctor. In this sentence, to become is an infinitive. It does not show tense or subject agreement. Instead, it completes the meaning of the finite verb wants by expressing intention. Therefore, to become is non-finite verb. Another example, he studies hard to achieve success. Here, to achieve is an infinitive. It answers the question why he studies hard, since it shows purpose and does not change according to the tense. Alright students, let's take one more example here. To help others is a noble act. In this sentence, to help functions as a noun and act as the subject of the sentence, as it does not show tense and cannot stand alone as the main verb. It is a non-finite verb. And with this, we come to the end of infinitives, a type of non-finite verb used to express purpose, intention, or action without showing tense. At this point, it becomes important to understand another form of verb, which looks like an action but behaves like a noun. This form of verb is known gerund. Although it ends in ing, it does not always show an action in progress. Instead, it plays a different grammatical role in a sentence. So now the question arises, what is a gerund? When a verb changes its role and starts behaving like a noun, it is called a gerund. Since it does not show tense and cannot act as a main verb, it is classified as a non-finite verb. Alright, let's understand how gerunds are used in sentences. A gerund can perform various functions just like a noun. When a gerund appears at the beginning of a sentence and acts as the doer of an action, it functions as a subject. For example, reading improves knowledge. Here, reading is not an action happening right now. Instead, it names an activity. Since it acts as the subject of the sentence and does not show tense, it is a gerund. A gerund can also function as the object of a verb. For example, she enjoys listening to music. In this sentence, listening answers the question, what does she enjoy? Therefore, it works as the object. Although it looks like a verb, it functions as a noun, making it a gerund. One of the most important rules related to the gerund is that after a preposition, we always use a gerund, not infinitive. For example, he is fond of playing cricket. One more example, she succeeded by working hard. A gerund can also complete the meaning of the sentence by acting as a complement. For example, her hobby is painting. In this sentence, painting explains what her hobby is. It functions as a noun and completes the meaning of the sentence. At this point, confusion may arise between a gerund and a present participle because both end in ing. However, the key difference lies in their functions. Always remember, gerund acts as a noun while present participle acts as an adjective. Let's understand this with some examples. Having a smile makes a good impression. This is a gerund because it works as a noun. Next example, a smiling face makes a good impression. This is a participle and works as an adjective. To conclude, a gerund is a verb ending in ing that functions as a noun. It does not show tense and cannot act as the main verb. We now come to the third and final type of non-finite verb. At this stage, it is important to understand a verb form that not only shows action but also adds description to a sentence. This form of verb is known as a participle. Although participles are derived from verbs, they mainly function as adjectives. To begin with, a participle is a form of a verb that is used as an adjective to describe a noun or pronoun. In simple words, when a verb changes its role and starts describing a person, place, thing, or idea, it is called participle. Since it does not show tense and cannot act as the main verb, it is classified as a non-finite verb. Now that the basic idea of participles is clear, let's move on to the different types. Participles are mainly divided into three categories: present participle, past participle, and perfect participle. A present participle is formed by adding ing to the base form of verb. It is used to describe a noun and usually shows an action that is ongoing or incomplete. For example, the crying baby needs care. Here, crying describes the noun baby. It does not act as the main verb, hence it is present participle. Another example, the shining stars look beautiful. In this sentence, shining modifies the noun stars. Therefore, it is present participle. A past participle is usually formed by adding ed to regular verbs or by using the third form of irregular verbs. It is used to describe a noun and verb shows a completed action or state. For example, the broken window was repaired. Here, broken describes the noun window. It is not the main verb, so it is a past participle. Another example, she picked up the lost keys. In this sentence, lost modifies the noun key, hence it is a past participle. A perfect participle is formed by using having followed by the past participle of the verb. It is used to show that one action was completed before another action took place. For example, having finished his homework, he went out to play. Here, having finished shows that the homework was completed before going out. Therefore, it is a perfect participle. Another example, Having lost the match, the team practiced harder. In this sentence, having lost indicates a complete action before another action. At this point, students often confuse participles with gerunds because both ends in ing. However, the difference lies in their action. Always remember, gerund acts as a noun while participle acts as an adjective. For example, crying won't solve the problem. Here, crying is an activity, so you can replace it with it or something. It is a gerund and act as a noun. Now look at the another example. The crying baby needs attention. It is a participle. It acts as an adjective in a sentence. So my dear learners, we complete here our discussion on participles and non-finite verbs. Thank you for watching it. Hope this will help you in your upcoming exams. We'll be back soon with a completely new topic. Until then, keep learning, keep growing and keep shining. See you soon and take care.